Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. It's Friday. We made it through a crazy week. Hasn't it been crazy? Well, let's go downstairs and talk a little bit about it. In case you haven't been watching the news, which is good advice not to, but if you do happen to catch some, you'll know that in certain cities, including New York City here and in Brooklyn, things like that, they've been dropping somebody in a unmarked van and vehicles with no license plates have been dropping pallets of bricks and boxes of bricks on street corners. Now, my question is, for these people, do you deliver bluestone? Because I need about a half a ton of bluestone, quarter inch bluestone. So if you do, please get in touch with me. Okay, so this is the decorative finial that my sister chose for her barn, and I already drilled a hole in here just because it makes it easier when you're turning it on the lathe. And what we're going to use is we're going to use one of these pole bolts. Now, they come in two different varieties here. One is, you can see it says plain finish. That means it's just a steel finish. There's no coating on here. This one has a zinc finish. A little bit more rust resistant. I guess we'll use the zinc one. What I found interesting is on the back of these, now I bought these at Home Depot, and on the back of them, on this one here, you can see it says made in China, Taiwan, or USA. I guess either one. It could be either one, China, Taiwan, or USA. This one here is strictly China. These were expensive. It was $1.50 each, or something like that. You know, that's a lot of money for this screw, especially when you can get a lag screw, same type of lag screw, which is, I guess, 5/16. You can pick one of those up very cheap. Now, to install this, you know, we turned it in here. I already, like I said, I turned this down just in thinking that I would get a lag screw about this size. First thing you want to do is we're going to make sure this is drilled deep enough. We're going to drill that out to this length. And then what you're supposed to do now, see a machine, remember what we say about a hanger bolt? A hanger bolt has machine threads on one side and screw threads on the other. To install them, you put two screws on one side. It's a little easier to install. With these, years ago, they used to have like a little hacksaw or something built here, but I don't even know how you would install this. I mean, unless you take a little vice grip or something, but either way, you're going to bugger up the threads. You know, think about it. One thing I was thinking about is, before we install this, I went into my box of old lag bolts. This is a lag bolt. I said, let's see if we can't make a hanger bolt. And I'll show you what I mean. This one's really dirty, huh? So let's clean it up. You know, the head is buggered up on this already. So let's see if we can't make a hanger bolt. Okay, step one, we're going to chamfer the end of this bolt by holding it in this soft spot here of the belt sander and just turning it a little bit to chamfer the end. Step we're going to do, we took a block of wood, we drilled a hole and split the block just like this, and this will hold our lag screw like this. We'll just hold it like this so that we can put it into the vise. And when we get it matched up right like this, we'll put it into the vise like that, and that'll hold it nice and steady so it won't spin and without damaging the threads. Make sure this is up and down. You want this to be vertical. Okay, next up, you're going to use a die holder and a die. Now, we measured this. This is about 3/8 of an inch, so we don't have to turn it down or anything. I'm using a 3/8 by 16, very common die here. Now, if you notice, the die has a starting point and an end point. The starting point is always a little bit wider so that it can rest on here and go on easy. Put the starting edge like that, and then that will go here, and that'll start the die, and we'll use that with lubricant. Let's get started. Now, it's important to remember, you want to use a lot of lubricant on here. You don't worry about using too much lubricant. This is Tappy's. It's a cutting fluid. And give it a turn, and when you feel it's starting to bind up a little bit, just go back here and it'll break the chip. Because what happens is these teeth will start to chip up, and you'll see it because you'll feel it. You see it goes easy, and then also it gets a little tight. Just go another half a turn back, and that'll break the chip off. Let the chip fall to the bottom. But remember, a lot of lubricant. And just work your way down. Just keep spinning it and back and forth. And always use equal pressure on both of these. You're not really pushing down because the die will draw itself down. You're just turning it with equal pressure on both wings of the tool. Now that was extremely satisfying, wasn't it? Now there we have a hanger bolt, homemade from an old leg bolt and or leg screw. Now what you want to do here is to install this, you take your 3/8 by 16 nut, take one of them, put it on there like that, and then you take another one and put it on like this, and then you tighten the two against each other using just a wrench, and then you tighten up using the top one, and that's how you install a hanger bolt. And it makes so much sense, right? Now to install this, like, if you start putting vice grips or something on here, you're going to bugger up these threads. So you really only have that small area to grip on. Now, using a piece of tape on a drill bit, you can see I drilled out. I gave it just enough room that we have plenty of room for this side to go in here. It's very important that you pre-drill a hole when you're using leg bolts, because they do have a tendency to split, especially something like this. It'll split it. So you want to make sure that your drill is wide enough. And again, to measure the drill, you want the drill, or you see that? That's how thick you want that drill to cut. You just want the flutes of the screw to grab. You don't want to, the body to split the wood. You just want the flutes to grab. Now to install this in here, a couple drops of glue first into the hole. Just you don't need a lot, just a couple drops of glue, and that's so that won't be able to spin, or any kind of cracking that happens when you're installing this will quickly heal up with the glue. Now it won't go in, obviously. You take a small pair of vice grips and put them right at that area here, and again, you want to put enough force that it holds it, but not enough to bugger up the screw, and then spin the item like this until it's fully seated. And once that glue cures, that's not going anywhere. Okay, when it's installed, that's what it should look like. It should be coming straight out here. It should go all the way down there. It's seated. It can't go down any further. The glue will dry, and then that's good to go. Okay, next up, my girlfriend asked me, she said, do you have one of those things that makes a nice line between the grass and the cement? And she's talking about one of these. You ever seen one of these before? And you roll it across the curb, or you roll it across the sidewalk, and it makes a nice crisp line with the grass or anywhere around. This is what she's talking about. I happened to find this on one of my walks, and I threw it in the shed. I said, boy, this is nice, I can't pass this by. And it just so happens it works out, but it needs cleaning up, and I'll show you why. Now, it's a good thing that I didn't just bring this over without looking it out. First of all, the handle, it's a little dried out. We'll hit it with some linseed oil and get that so it don't get splintery. Secondly, you can see the rust over here. That's normal because this is an abrasive tool that scrapes, so you're going to get that. But you see how it works. As you scrape, as you hear, this creates like a cutting action. So we're just going to take this apart real quick and then clean it up. Linseed oil everything, put it back together, and this way it's operational. The other thing it needs is a screw here, second screw for the handle, but let's get to that. Okay, we're done with this now, and you can see how nicely this came out. You can see it's all lubricated up, and it looks, this is the way they kind of looked when they're, cared for or whatever. It's still got a little bit of a linseed oil on here. It's going to take a while to absorb, but these handles get dry. But yeah, these were, these little curb trimmers. There's really nothing much to them, and they do work. But now that everybody has the weed whackers or the string trimmers, these things have gone out of popularity. Coming up very soon, I have this axe that I have to do. You ever see one of these fireman axes? It has the point on the back here and the blade. You could see this one's this one's a little bit rough, right? But you can see the type of handle. This was an original fire axe because it's got the reflective tape here, and it has, this color really don't show up, but it's a kind of a fluorescent orange down here. And again, the reflective tape here on the handle. But, this is going to take a little bit of work, obviously. You can see the kind of shape it's in. We're going to try and save the handle, But what we're going to be using is basically what you see over here. I'm a big fan of the angle grinder lately, but I want to try and just use one tool. Like if you wanted to restore an axe like that, just using the angle grinder. You can pick these up for like $20, $25 at the Harbor Freight, and a couple discs and you're set. And we're going to use a coarse disc to start with. That'll get off most of the heavy duty rust. Then go to a fine disc. After the fine disc, we have, this is a fiber wheel, just like you would use on the regular buffing machine. And then here, this one, this is a polishing wheel. It's like a felt wheel. You can see here I just bought these, so we're going to try these out. And again, this is a felt with that'll polish it out. So looking forward to get that done. That should be an easy job. Okay, so here's where we're going to release the mice. Okay, here's a little pool area, my girlfriend's house, and you know, she has a nice little lawn back here. See back there? I'm going to take you back, but back at the edge of the property, that's where we're going to release the mice. Isn't this a nice place to be released if you are a mouse? Okay, over here they got acres and acres and lots of different berry bushes and all things to eat. And over there by the rocks in the shade is where I'm going to let them go. Okay, now you can see over here where we are. Deep in the woods over here. And here is where they'll be released, right here. And they got rocks and everything that they can go into. All I got to do is pull this little hatch up here. See? Pull that little hatch. And there's the one opening. And here's the other. And now they'll come out tonight sometime and find their way out. You know, I came home yesterday and believe it or not, after dropping off the mice, I missed them. I missed the little guys. They were all happy and cheery, and now, you know, there's an empty spot over there. So I'll have to wait until next season when new ones come in. Anyway, I have a little bit of footage following this of me crossing the Whitestone Bridge. You know, it just was a beautiful day, sunset. That's the Long Island Sound with the Manhattan skyline in the back. And I'll tell you some more stories about that particular waterway. I live right on that waterway, and you know, we spent a lot of time on it. So it's a beautiful area over there. And I hope you have a nice weekend. Thanks very much for tuning in. Take care now. Bye-bye.